Hi everyone, sorry we had a technical issue. So I'll just get Roshan back on. Hi everyone, thank you for logging in again. Just give us a second, technical issues. Hi Pooja. Hi Manasvi. Hi Afshin. Okay, lovely, we have Roshan. Hi.
My apologies.
No, it's okay. The screen freezes. But let's get started.
No, you know what happened was I was telling you that I kept a second device because I could see the battery on the other one dying, and that's what happened. So I was trying to switch from one to the other, and it did happen. So I got so worried saying I'm holding
That's
you
fine.
back. But
That's
okay,
fine.
okay. To everybody who's here, Shan, I started my career actually in theater and radio. So I was in Delhi, and I knew your mum well. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you know what used to happen was essentially I passed out from I did my master's in mass communication. I finished that. I then came out, and I mean I'm talking of a time when there was only Doordarshan and radio. So
Yeah.
there was no ZTV, no Star TV, nothing. So
Yeah.
people used to keep asking me at that time, saying, "What are you going to do, and how are you going to make a life?" And I was like, I'll figure something out. So theater used to be a safe place for me because I used to do a lot of plays in Delhi. So I did some theater. I was around doing a lot of plays when I switched on the radio one day and I actually heard FM had just started, and most of the FM programming, even in Delhi, was being sent from Bombay. So I heard one jazz program that was being hosted by someone, and when I heard it, I was like, okay, it's very informative, but it's not engaging. The person is not engaging with people. So the next morning, I took my bike and I went to All India Radio and said, I'm going to get in here, and I somehow managed to. And frankly, I mean, I first spoke to the guard, and from the guard, I got some information, and I figured someone else who was important. Kept going in, and I met the assistant station director in All India Radio, and I pitched him. This was Friday, and I pitched him a show to do on Sunday. And
Wow.
he was just, yeah, he just kept laughing. He thought I was mad because he was like, how will you do it? I said, I'll do it. He said, when will you do it? I said, you've got the slot at 10 in the morning. What will you call your show? I said, I'll call it
Yeah.
10 se 11. I just kept coming up with things on the spot, and he just kept getting more and more. He was entertained, and at the same time, I think he was just intrigued, saying, what is this boy going to do? And I went out. I had 48 hours to make my show. I did, and went on air on Sunday morning. And when I finished that first show, I had not been on live radio before. I'd been on live radio maybe in Lucknow as a guest. So being in Delhi and doing this was very different. And the show just connected with people. It was a countdown show of the top 10 songs,
Yeah.
and nobody used to do countdown shows in those days. So I did a countdown show on radio. That became popular. The show used to be called 10 se 11. So
Okay.
it was from 10 to 11, but I used to play
Okay.
10 current songs and one old song,
Wow.
saying,
Okay.
saying, okay, this is fun, but that was more fun. And that became really interesting and engaging for people. So people enjoyed the show. That show within no time led to television because Public Demand was a countdown show that I was given to do.
Yeah.
So I did Public Demand and I did this, and then both television and radio sort of took off together for me. Um, and I could have been just an anchor or a talent, but somewhere I think, and nobody in my family has ever done business, by the way.
Really?
Nobody ever. Yeah, yeah. My parents, my dad is an electrical engineer. He used to teach electrical engineering. My mother used to teach history. My grandfather was a lawyer. So when I set up Encompass, everybody was like, "What is this guy doing?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "No, we'll create something fun." So that's what happened.
Okay, I mean, so you started Encompass first, or is Commune a property? I want you to tell us a little bit about that too.
Yeah. So essentially, I started Encompass in what was it, 1997, because I was hosting a whole bunch of programs. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a bunch of people who wanted to be in it. I'm just sending them messages so that they are here as well.
Okay.
So essentially, what happened was that 97 in Delhi, when I was hosting a lot of live events, I saw that there was nothing called event management. There were people who knew people who knew people. So there was a person in the middle who knew the artist, or knew the model, or knew the ghazal singer, or knew the musician. And on the other side, there was the same person knew the client, and they would do something and bring people together. Now the problem was, people came together, they all came together well intentioned, but nobody had an understanding of stage or lighting or design and sound. And again, these are early days for the industry in India. So I think only Viscraft had started. If I remember, Om Pradyut, my friend, had started phase one. There was Fountainhead. So I just felt that there was an automatic place, a gap that you could fill. And I think any entrepreneur wants to do that. That you feel, okay, here's a gap and I want to address it. So that's how I started it. I had a whole bunch of friends from theatre, from radio, from television, and I got all of them together and said, why don't you all help out? And that's how Encompass started.
Okay, amazing. And Commune is a part of this and something you've started recently?
No. So Encompass started in 97, continued as an agency till 2008, when we sold it to WPP, which is one of the global giants in terms of advertising. 2009, I went out to make a film, and 2009 to 2011, I was making a film. I'd done a play in Delhi called Graffiti, and that same play was very popular in Delhi. It had, in those days, it had Neha Dhupia, it had Samir Kochar, it had Gaurav Kapoor, loads of Priyanka Bose. All these people at that time were students, and I used to take a danda and sort of run around after all of them. Cyrus Saukar, how can I forget? So all of these guys.
Wow, yeah.
So I used to do all of that, and that same play was something I wanted to make into a film. So 2009, I started making it into a film. When I came out in 2011, the day we released the film, there were 7. It was a small film. It was a very small film, and it released with 7 other films. So it did decently, but it didn't sort of make any great waves.
Yeah.
When I came out from the film, I was suddenly facing, as a creator, 2 things. On one side, there was this thing of saying, oh my God, that didn't do well. And all my life, everything I had done till then was like a super success and whatever. So not seeing super success was something that sort of suddenly affected me. The second thing that it did was that as a creator, I'd put my life into the film. I'd written, gone to the extent of writing a song, gone and found the locations, taught the actors, done all of that. And, you come out creatively drained. So having to deal with failure and feeling a vacuum creatively was a very big thing. And I was like, now what do I do? And a whole bunch of my creator friends started forming almost a circle of, just a circle around me, which gave me a lot of empathy, that gave me a lot of love, a lot of sitting and saying, it's okay to fail. So, I remember going out with Ankur and Gaurav took me out once, and they were Vikram Sathe, a very dear friend of mine, Nilesh, Sameer Joshi, Shaheen, Mini, many other friends. Now, they would all sort of tell me, it's fine, and they would all talk about their failures. And I was like, oh wow, even they've had a problem. Ankur told me about directing a film many, many years ago and then saying, yeah, it's been such a long time. I didn't get to direct a second movie. I'm okay with it. Then he told me about music, or Gaurav told me about being an actor. And when I was hearing these stories, I suddenly realized that in that, as a creator, you need a safe space. And that's where the idea of Commune came to me, saying a creative, safe space for people to come and explore ideas, to tell their stories, to explore underdeveloped art.
Yeah.
And that's when, hey Simran, thank you for saying that.
I know, so sweet actually, to get such lovely comments.
Thank you. No, it's just nice. And what happens is that people came together, and we started hosting shows. The first show we did was for 15 people. But the minute we did a video, that video reached thousands. And we suddenly realized that, okay, what you do offline can be translated into great success online.
Yes.
And it was again Gaurav who told me at that time, saying, listen, I'm a lazy creator. I talk and people make videos. And he was talking about IPL. And he says, Ankur, and Ankur is a musician, you're a theatre lover, you love audiences clapping in front of you. He says, I'm not like that. And Gaurav is very honest about it. He says, I'm not like that. he says, why don't you make videos? So actually his contribution was the digital face of Commune. And from 2015 to 2017, it just kept growing. So by 2017, we had approximately, I think, about a lakh plus as an audience. And my logic was, if there are a lakh of people online, then even if 2-3% of this come offline, that's 3,000, 4,000 people, we'll have a festival. And that's how Spoken Fest happened. So Commune started very informally, I mean, you were a part of Spoken Fest, so you know. You know, and it was magic. I mean, the first Spoken Fest, I said, boss, now I can really die in peace if I want, because it was genuinely straight from the heart. And a lot of the things I do are straight from the heart. Many people ask me saying, where do you think of money? I said, I don't think of money. I first think of content. I first think of the idea. I first think of engagement, and the money follows.
But you know, you're absolutely right, because I attended the Spoken Fest for the first time. I've only heard about it, but I was there because, as you said, I was part of it, and I think I didn't stop speaking about it for at least 2 months after, because it was a fabulous experience. Everyone was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we should go. But it was just something you created, which is a platform for people who really don't have another way. There are people who don't have a route into the industry, or you know, to showcase their talent. See, somebody's written, Spoken Fest, one of the best festivals, very close to my life.
So Meet, who wrote that, watching right now, Meet was one of the production people on the festival for 2 years. And when he could be on the third one, he was so heartbroken. But it's people like him, you know. Again, the joy of Spoken is that everyone, like, you know, it was not a Encompass project, but the Encompass team used to take 2 days off and say, this is our weekend. We are coming to do things. Nobody was making. I mean, you know, festivals don't make money initially, but the love they get from people is just immense. And you're right. I mean, as a stage for the underserviced or the people whose voices are not heard, see, through the year, if you go to our Commune handle, through the year, we have hundreds and thousands of people who send us poetries, who send us their stories, who will come up with a song or a theatre piece. And you know, in the first year of Commune, I thought Commune is about storytelling. And then I realized, no, it's not. Commune is about, 2 years later, we had this lovely consultant called Sumit Roy who came. And Sumit Roy came and told me, what are you in the business of? And I said, we're in the business of telling stories. He was wrong. And I was like, what's he saying? And, you know, and he says, no. He says, you guys are in the business of creating emotions. Right? You create emotional connections. And I was like, you're right, we do. And then we redefined Commune and we started saying Commune is about great art and great artists. So we've really opened up. Thanks, Kamaljeet, for loving Geometry and Compass. It's great. Yeah, I mean, I love The Office. Honestly, when The Office was built by our founding team for the Bombay office, there was Chanda Singh, there was Supriya Kulkarni, there was Reshma Patel. All of these people came together and built The Office. It looked a lot like the Glitch office, but the Glitch office was was the digital agency I was a partner in. And yeah, I mean, if you ever come to the Encompass office, even today, it's one of the most beautiful offices people talk about. So
really, I'm sure. And you know what was so nice is that everyone was helping one another at the Spoken Fest. So which was cool is that if you wanted to do a podcast, you know, workshop, there were 2-3 people who just met at the festival. They were going together to do that. Somebody came alone and they made friends and went to listen to something else. So you don't have to go with your friends. It's somewhere where you can go and learn and just be. I love the experience, absolutely. And more than all, you're giving a platform to people to actually reach their, you know, fullest potential, I feel.
No, you know, and another very unique thing that happened with the Spoken Fest was that, you know, we many years ago, and again, I'm sorry to refer to your mom and stuff or whatever, but you know, like we all used to do so many of these fashion events together. And the unique thing that happened was that I remember Sushmita Sen had just won Miss Universe, and then she'd done a film, and the film was doing really well. And while all these things were going on, we guys were actually, you know, I knew her from Delhi days. So I met her backstage and I said, Sushmita, you won Miss Universe, her film had just come out, Mujhse Shaadi Karogi, she won Best Supporting Actress. She was so happy. And I was talking to her and I said, Sushmita, what's going on and how are you liking Bombay? And she said, it's nice on days, but there are days when, I was like, what happened? And she used to love doing Shero Shairi. So she actually told me backstage at that, and I remember shooting an episode of a show with her, and she said, "Koi haath bhi na milayega, जो गले मिलोगे तपाक से ये नए मिजाज का शहर है जरा फासले से मिलाकर." So she was talking about our industry, about the fact that many relationships here are very superficial. People will meet you for who you are, not what you are. The name you have made, not the person you are. So I think somewhere a lot of these things reflect in commune where anybody will reach out to you. It's a place when Rega, I think Rega gave me Pooja Johri, who's the CEO for Glitch, and Rega Jha have given me the best definitions of Spoken Fest.
Yes.
So in the second year, Pooja told me saying, "This is the mecca for the mindful millennials."
Yes.
And I loved the line. I said, "Oh my God, what a great line!" It's not for everyone. I'm not saying it's everyone's cup of tea. It is for the mindful millennial. And then last year, Rega said it on stage. She said, "This is annual empathy boot camp." So there's so much love, there's so much affection. I mean, we had this lovely artist who flew down from Canada, who's one of the world's best known poets. And when he landed in India, he said, "Listen, my luggage has got lost." And he had medication in the luggage.
Oh.
Now, you won't believe, for 24 hours, our team was finding the medication. And, without a prescription, you're giving someone, and it was medication for anxiety. So there was this worry of how do we get it? But our team went and did it. Next morning, somebody, and he was very big. So somebody took him shopping for kurtas. When he left India, the note he wrote to us, it was just, I was like, this is it. This is what I built this for. We built this with a lot of love, for a lot of love. And I think at the end of Spoken Fest, everybody has a bigger reason to be, which is great, which is enough.
And I have to say, that's not very me. I don't listen to poetry. I'm not somebody who, reads about different things. Let's say it was just something that it was totally not me, but I absolutely loved it. And I know that I'll be there every year because it was a fabulous experience. And, one fabulous thing I have to tell everyone that's listening is the zero waste concept that you included in Spoken Fest, and I love that you all measured every day how much waste you've actually collected and recycled. So that is a huge movement.
Look at what's happening. I mean, the one big realization that we're all having in lockdown is what? Two realizations. One realization is we're actually so lonely, right? I mean, everyone's sitting at home and saying, when you pick up the phone, somebody wrote a beautiful thing. It says, we call more and text less. Earlier, we used to text more and call less because we just, we wanted to avoid human contact. Now you're desperate for human contact. Yeah. And look at that, right? That's a big thing. The second thing is, what do we do to nature? I mean, when you see an image of a peacock roaming in Juhu freely, or you see dolphins and people talk about dolphins in Marine Drive, in the sea, what is it? It's nature taking its own back. Personally, I mean, I'm a little philosophical about this. But my whole reason to make the festival zero waste, while it costs us money, because see, the team is that they're workers, they're people who are picking up the stuff, they're carting it away, and everybody tells us we need to, oh my God, it's a cost. But it's a cost that we will happily bear because it's a cost that tells the world, don't just care about human beings, care about your environment, care about your nature. And I mean, that placard that we hold at the end saying we recycled 94%, or I think 1 year it was 88%, 1 year it was 94%, just makes us so happy.
It's a wonderful initiative, and you're encouraging, your platform's large, so you're encouraging others, and I feel like the millennials, like you mentioned, are the right people.
Absolutely.
If they take it up now, it'll be a larger movement. So absolutely. I want to just read a few of the comments. You've got people who absolutely love you. Sarah from Isaji says, "Hi Roshan, hi Shan. Nice to see you, Roshan, after ID. Hi Roshan, I'm sure many videos would have been successful, but which 2 or 3 would be the best so far from commercial campaign point of view?" Would you like to take that now?
Sure. If you guys are asking about Spoken Fest videos, or you're talking of what kind of videos?
I think general. I think it's general because, or maybe spoken. We can go with Spoken Fest because it says very
So,
many videos.
if you look at it, the video that has become most successful from the first Spoken is the Zakir Khan piece that I had done. So Zakir and I did, in fact, Shan, we did a 45-minute interview on stage. And people want to say that videos, people have no attention, they will only watch for 2 minutes. That video is now, I think, at some 8 million views.
Wow.
Because the content is great, right? So if the content is great, and it had Zakir, because Zakir at that time was himself a phenomenon, now he's a huge phenomenon. Then after that, this year we had a piece that Faye D'Souza did, and when Faye's first piece came out, where that piece, it's called Uncle, I think. That piece, I remember when people start sharing a spoken word piece on WhatsApp, I know it's viral. Because if people have the time to take it off YouTube, copy it, and then share it, then it's so I think these were two of the things. Doodle Baba is there. By the way, Doodle Baba is one of our oldest friends from Spoken Fest. He used to doodle at the festival, make notebooks and beautiful pen stands. I mean, there were so many things. He would have those. And again, he's one of the people who I think from the first year became a friend of the festival and now is like a partner with us. He's done some fun doodles for our handle. Sorry, I'm going back. I keep doing this, and I saw Sharmila there. So I want to say a big hello to Sharmila. I often look back to those, the days. Oh my God, the early days of fashion. Oh, what a life it used to be. I remember traveling to these crazy places, Ranchi, Ludhiana, to do fashion shows.
My God.
And see, that was entertainment. In those days, a fashion show or a ghazal night or a rock night was entertainment. Such crazy memories.
Yeah, you'll have done a lot of work together. That's absolutely great to hear. And finally, I'm talking to you over here as well, which is full circle.
Yeah, it's lovely. Life is full circle. So one day my son will be sitting on the other side and interviewing you.
Soon. So, I wanted to also ask you, Spotify was a very big part of the Spoken Fest this year. And I absolutely loved the work that you all did with them because it was something you could learn a lot from. So now, of course, Spotify did not promote their music, but this time Spotify promoted their podcasts and their podcast series. So I'd love to hear from you how that association went before I take the podcast topic up.
See, every year we get a whole bunch of great brands who become a part of Spoken Fest. Hi, Shaheen, by the way.
I know, I was just going to say hi, Shaheen. Finally, you're here. We spoke about you in the beginning, about your cooking.
Yes, we did. So much. So what happened is that with Spoken Fest, the brands that come on board, like this year we had Spotify, we had Bumble, we had Netflix. So what happens is that when you get a Harley Davidson, so great partners don't impose on a festival; they share in the festival's ethos. So when Spotify and we met, and Amarjeet and Neha and Divya and the entire team, Niyati, everybody met us. Their whole point was that, listen, we don't want to come and do something that is not the festival. So when we told them that our festival is about storytellers and poets, etc., she said, why not use this to leverage podcasting? Because I genuinely feel that after the wave of video, the next big wave that is coming is podcasting. Kenny Sebastian and I were doing a workshop on Saturday. We had 800 people registering for a podcasting workshop. And we couldn't take, we could only take about 170 because we didn't want just general fans who come and say, hello sir, I love you. That's, it happened so many times. We said, kaam karne aao. So we did that, but it was so exciting. And I asked Kenny, Kenny, why are you doing a podcast? People say it's a small medium. He said, listen, 9 years ago, people, when I used to stand up on a mic and do comedy, people would say, why are you doing comedy? It's such a small medium, So these things, if you're early into something, you can become really big. So anybody who's looking at podcasting, I'm not pitching Spotify, I'm just pitching podcasting to you, saying, if you have a voice, go out and do something.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to also ask you, this is an extremely basic question. My mother is, of course, writing something completely off topic, but I have
but I think it's a very important question. I'm going to answer that. So Sharmila, I must tell you, so there's a question about, the Roshan that she knew and me. So the Roshan that Sharmila knew was this nice Delhi boy who everybody used to say, so polite people used to turn and say, "Kitna khate pite ghar ka munda hai," right? So I used to be this guys. I used to be 96 kilos at my utmost biggest. I am now 80-ish. At my lowest I was 75. But what happened was that I finished the film when I was 40. I suddenly started having all kinds of medical complications for about 3 months. Just ridiculous stuff, blood pressure. Suddenly, I'm like, and poor Shine would keep telling me, saying, "Listen, lose some weight." My friends in television production houses, lose some weight, and I would just keep joking and laughing it off. I just took charge of my diet. I started exercising, and in 8 months, without any artificial means, I just zipped my mouth and ran my feet, and that was it. I lost 20 kilos. So,
20 kilos?
20 kilos in 8 months.
Mom, I hope you're listening, because this is true. It's hard work. It's not an overnight.
Absolutely. There are no overnight successes, and I can tell you one thing. It's only these two things. See, it's calories in, calories out. So either you zip your mouth entirely and just go on this fast and become, possibly just keep going and fasting, which is impossible. Or the other is that you burn it off. So honestly, the first 10 kilos I lost, Shan, was just by zipping my mouth. After that, I reached a plateau. Nothing would go, and then I started exercising, and the rest just boom, boom, boom happened. So
amazing.
It was quite
and
crazy,
in fact, your wife and I are both on the SoFit challenge last month. So we've been chatting a lot about what she's been cooking and what she's been doing. We share recipes, so that's been great. But
Wow.
Before I take some questions, we have a lot of questions coming. I want to ask you before that, how does one the basics of a podcast? So how do you start off a podcast? And what are the ingredients of a good podcast?
Okay, so I think, see, the best part about a podcast is that because it's an audio medium, you don't need to spend lots of money. So you can, just with your phone, you can record a podcast. I'd recommend people to download this app called Anchor. It has music inside it, which is free. It has Sting. It's very user friendly. So in a podcast, the first thing you must say, is there something unique you want to talk about? So, for example, everybody who's part of your networking group, if there's somebody who is, say, making chocolates, or there's somebody who is running a gym, or there's somebody who is running a big business of, organic farm. Now, do you know enough about the subject to not do one episode, but to be able to do 100 episodes? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You have to keep doing it. I started my podcast during lockdown. I'm on my 4th episode. It takes a day of my life to do it. But I enjoy it tremendously because I interview people, I call them, I bought some music online, which cost me a little bit of money, but I just wanted to make something professional. Again, you can make a podcast in zero cost. Pick up your phone, download the app, it's free, record your voice, take the music, publish it, you're done. But people listen to things that are interesting.
Absolutely.
So, are you interesting? Make sure that you are interesting. When you talk of organic farming, do people love you for it? When you talk of poetry, do people think, wow? When you talk of jewelry, it's so important that you must know your subject. If you don't know your subject, you can be a great interviewer and interview 100 people, So Shan knows food really well. Shan knows curation really well. But right now, if she's talking to me about podcasting, what you're doing right now is a podcast. It could just be on. As long as it's interesting. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as I keep telling people, is always in a podcast or in an interview, try to find the tweetable tweet, the quotable quote, right? Make sure that the guest on the other end says something that people want to share.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you know what that person said? I just read that. Like today I read a statement on the pandemic, right? Which was just, it just turned and said that, is this the new normal? Now, right? Remember, that's become a phrase. We hear it. It stays in our head. Or somebody else was talking about the fact of saying that this is going to make us make choices over and over, right? We will keep choosing between the joy of assembly or the what was the other one? So on one side, there is the joy of assembly. We love to meet as human beings. We want to socially gather. On the other side, there is the security of the self, of staying alone.
Yeah.
So talk, keep finding interesting things that people want to take away. That's what makes a good podcast. Frankly,
Absolutely.
let me also contradict myself and tell you the funniest thing in the world. So I often ask people saying, what's one of the world's longest podcasts? Because there are podcasts that are 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and whatever. So anybody who is there, by the way, Bhakti Popat is saying, Shan, you rock, which is amazing.
Who's
So,
that? Oh, Bhakti.
yeah. So if anybody out there knows which is one of the world's longest podcasts, does anybody know? If you all know, you can check or you can ask or you can tell your friends and stuff about it. It's quite interesting. So
How
there are
long
lots
is
and lots of amazing podcasts out there, and you could actually be telling your friends about it and stuff. So if any of you has any answers, you can. I'm also just constantly, if I keep looking at the screen funny, it's because I keep adding people and doing stuff. So
But
that's
tell
me.
us if you know the answer to this, because I don't.
Yeah. So anybody there? Okay. So if you guys don't know, let me tell you. So one of the funniest podcasts and one of the longest podcasts in the world is called Game of Drones.
Okay.
Right. So it is a guy whose podcast became famous because he used to talk in a droning voice.
Okay.
But his voice was so soothing that people used to go to sleep. So his podcast is sometimes 2 hours, 7 hours, and he just keeps droning on. But people
Wow.
listen to him because he helps you go to sleep.
Wow.
So, you can
Okay.
make a podcast for anything at all.
Yeah.
Can I
So
tell you
some-
one thing, Shan? You have unlocked an achievement. My wife has never watched a live for so long, which I have been in. I must have been in some 15 lives in the last 60 days. But you have got her attention.
So I'm very proud. I think it's me today that she's here for them.
Absolutely not me. I'm Gar Ki Murgi.
I have to tell you guys, whoever's watching, I have to tell you something. So my mom worked with Roshan, of course. And when I grew up and joined mom in the business, I met Shaheen very early on in my career as well. And she became a friend individually too. So and then I worked with you on Spoken Fest. So it's just all connected
Yeah,
somehow.
and I mean, I when I told you, so Pooja has just joined. Hi, Pooja. I asked Pooja to join because I was talking about Pooja's line about the Mecca of the mindful millennial. So she's the one who gave the festival that amazing line, and she's the
Yeah.
CEO of Glitch.
Fabulous
An
line,
amazing
because you described
person who
it
you should
perfectly.
you should get her onto your show.
Absolutely, yes, and it describes it perfectly. So great point right there. I want to ask you before, somebody has also written a question which says, 1 minute story podcast, would it work?
If you do many of them, it would work because remember, most people listen to podcasts either as a commute when they are traveling or in the gym. So
Yeah.
it's not, they don't listen just for a minute. So ideally, the length is 20 to 22 minutes is an ideal podcast length. But again, there are no rights or wrongs. One of the shortest podcasts, which is called Five Things I Fear. So it's about five. So a person just says 5 things and it takes 5 minutes.
Wow.
So it's,
okay.
yeah, the beauty of podcasting, Shan, is that anything, I'm telling you, in the room I'm sitting in, I can tell you 10 podcast topics which are not done. It's just
But
imagination,
content is
nothing
key.
else.
Content is key.
Absolutely.
So that brings me to my next question, which is, do you recommend any podcast that you love? Of course, yours, which you've launched during the lockdown. You can tell us a little about that and any more.
Sure. So my podcast is still a work in progress. I only say this, there are 4 episodes. 4th episode will be out this week. So I called it, so what do we do now? Because everybody was asking me in the first week of lockdown, what do we do now? And I was like, I'll answer that. So what do we do now tries to solve people's problems while I'm sitting at home by just picking up my telephone directory and then the number of people in my contact list and contacting them. So in the first week, I was trying to solve the problem of live artists. In the second week, I was trying to talk to people about mental health. In the third week, I just spoke about how to make money online. And the next one is about food, about saying what happens to restaurants and people who are in the food catering business during the
Yeah.
lockdown. So every time I'm trying to solve a problem in the podcast. But if you really want to hear Advertising is Dead, which is done by Varun Dugirala, is a wonderful podcast on, frankly, not just advertising, but the entire ecosystem of creativity and content. Varun has started his second podcast, which right now is called, I think it's called Useless Information. I just love the title; it's amazing because he's come up with that. The other podcast that I listened and actually I shared with a couple of people, and Sheena Khalid wrote to me saying thank you for making me cry, but it's called Heavyweight. And
Heavyweight.
Heavyweight it's what is it about? It's about a guy who says all of us carry some heavy burdens inside, and he just talks to people and sorts them. So one of the episodes, the episode which I told everybody to listen to, is a girl who used to play basketball, but she was an orphan. And when she went to live in a foster home in America, and she was in America, the foster parent, the mother, didn't let her play basketball because she thought it's distracting her from her studies. And this girl is now grown up. She's 40 years plus. But she carries the burden of not being allowed to play basketball then. And if you hear the episode, and if you don't cry, I'll change my name because it's done so beautifully. Last week I heard another. Yeah, but you must. Heavyweight is fabulous. Invisibilia. Invisibilia is a podcast which talks about things that you might be invisible to. Right? And there's an episode this time which is about sounds around us that possibly we have lost. Oh my God. I think it's called not the day the music died, because that's what I would have called it, but it's beautiful. So these are two. I listen to some 20 podcasts, so don't get me started. I could go on, but I just keep listening. So when I go to sleep, my secret is Shaheen likes to watch TV. So she'll be watching Grey's Anatomy or something else. And after a while, I'm like, okay, I want to sleep. Now, the happy compromise is that light doesn't impact my sleep, but sound does. So I put on my lovely headphones and I put on a podcast, and after listening to 2 episodes or whatever, I'm now relaxed and I go to sleep. So I wake up sometimes at 4 a.m. and my headphones are still on with a podcast playing. So my mind is filled with podcasts even when I'm sleeping.
Wow, but I can imagine you doing that because your life.
Yeah, I'm as mad as that. Yeah, so I'll answer one quick question that somebody. So Mahita is there. Hey Mahita, I hope you're doing really well. Mahita is one of our wonderful storytellers, a lovely actress as well. And you know, of all things, when we met her and whatever, she tells us the most amazing, funny stories. So, you know, Mahita, there is really no, I think people put out, so news shows normally put out a daily episode. Yeah, Heavyweight indeed is what I said. That's the name that I'm being asked. So, news puts out stuff daily or weekly.
Yeah.
Most people put out stuff weekly because it's, again, podcasting is also appointment listening. People start listening again and again and again, and they get into a habit. So stay with it. Okay, it's very, very important. So Srini, are you asking about the podcast that I said? One is called Heavyweight, the other is called Invisibilia, and Advertising is Dead. And if you want to listen and you've got a little bit of time to mine, it's called So What Do We Do Now? Episode 3.
They're asking about yours as well. Someone says, what's it called?
It's called So What Do We Do Now? It's available on all platforms. And Rohit Raj, my other mad partner at Glitch, has endorsed it because he did like my first episode, but he loved this one. So he wrote to me saying, by the way, the third episode is now really good. So I'm like, okay. You know, it's good to have friends who are great critics. You know, who tell you when you're right and when you're wrong. So, oh yeah, Simple Ken is very sweet because Kenny Sebastian, he just takes the comments from his Instagram and he answers them in the most brazen manner. Like when I heard 1 or 2 episodes, I almost had a heart attack. Then I said, listen, I'm a boomer. He's a young millennial. So let me not try to put my opinions onto him. By the way, my daughter.
I have to hear this.
You must hear it. Simple Ken is great fun. Great fun.
There is a comment from Simran who says, Roshanji, your story, The Blanket That Belonged to Nuwan, is a story I'll never forget. My eyes were filled with tears.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Saini, for being here also, and everybody else who's here. So nice to have all of you guys here with us. So, you know, the blanket is a real story, and people, it's the story that actually happened in front of Shaheen and me when I was in Delhi. I was a
Okay.
complete atheist. I never believed in God. I mean, not that I didn't believe in it. I was just a little. I think my parents were a little more liberal, and I mean, my father was a bit of a communist in growing up. So that's how we were. But the blanket is a story that if somebody hears, my mother had a bypass and was in hospital, and what happens is that we guys reach a stage. So, like, I could afford the best hospital, so I took her to the best hospital in Delhi, Escorts. Best doctor, best doctor. But now, when a person is undergoing the procedure, you don't know what's going to happen. And suddenly, you're in that space of, you know, doctors have done everything. So many Hindi films have that line saying, "Ab inko dawa ki nahi, dua ki zarurat hai." Right?
Yeah.
But you're actually in that stage. And I was in that stage and I was there and I was like, now what do I do? What do I do? And at that point in time, the hospital was not equipped with a waiting room. So we were all sleeping in the lobby of the hospital. Me and my accountant who had bought some money because we had to pay bills. And because it was a heart hospital, they kept the air conditioning really high. So the air conditioning was so high that I swear I could have died of the cold. And at night, suddenly somebody came and put a blanket on me.
What?
And when I looked up, I could see this lady who put a blanket on me. Now my mother always from childhood used to do this story. So in our sect of Muslims, there is a thing called Janabe Sayyida ki Kahani, which is it's like a small prayer. Like log पाठ पढ़ते हैं या हनुमान चालीसा पढ़ते हैं उस तरीके से it's a story about a woman who appears in your dreams to fulfill things.
Wow.
And my mother used to keep telling us this story and I used to keep joking about it all the time. All the time. Now, this lady places a blanket on me. I have a very nice night. In the morning, the doctors tell me, your mother's doing really well. Go and meet her. I take off the blanket. I give it to my accountant and I say, listen, it has to be somebody who was sitting here who gave us the blanket. Return the blanket to the person. When I come back, I'll thank her. I went upstairs. I met my mother. My mother was fine. Everything was great. I came down and my accountant was waiting there with the blanket in his hand. And I said, why didn't you give it to the person? He says, no one here says they gave us the blanket.
What?
Yeah.
That's freaky almost.
So, that's what I'm saying. So, maybe the person came, maybe the person gave the blanket that night, and left. But I don't know. I just don't know. So, it's one of the craziest.
That's a great story. Yeah. That's
So,
really dua.
so that is the story that she's talking about. Hi, Dhriti.
Yeah, so
good to see
somebody says,
you.
heard you on Cyrus Says once, loved that episode, Srini Stuff says.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah. Cyrus says, Cyrus is my mad friend from the days when we used to do television. And Cyrus Brocha used to always take my trip by turning and saying, Bhaga, if I knew Hindi the way you know, man, I would control India. Because he was the wittiest host we knew. I mean, even now, even today. But his podcast is so amazing, so engaging. He's always there.
It's so nice. There's so much out there to listen to which we don't even know about,
Yeah. And see, that's the joy again that in podcasting, there is so much to discover every day and it doesn't cost you a penny. So why not?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got people saying that story really gives me goosebumps. Do you still have that blanket with you, sir?
No. So what happened was Pradyuman. That's Pradyuman. I'm only saying it because it's the strangest thing that I gave it to my accountant and then I left and I think he gave it to the person there and I उस समय मैं इतने disbelief में था कि नहीं सब बकवास है. But when I thought about it the next day and the day after that, and I was like, what happened? But it was beautiful, and I keep saying that faith is a ladder that you need to climb one step at a time, and that's the day I saw one of the steps. I'm still not. I don't know where I am. I don't know whether I've climbed halfway, midway, bottom. It was just an incredible thing that happened.
But that is incredible. That really is an incredible story. I want to also ask you a little bit about the digital transformation during the lockdown. This is one thing I wanted to talk about. Is everyone's suddenly moving online, be it webinars, be it courses, be it like you said, you had 800 applicants for a podcast workshop. So, what's your take on this? Is this a good time for people who were looking to explore the online to really move online?
it's a very good time to explore things to do online, but don't just press the go live button. I keep saying that, many people have just panicked and pressed the go live button, and, they don't prepare, they don't put in the homework, they don't develop an audience, they don't develop products to give to people. And I keep saying it's all right, but see, there are people who just love being, and the people who love doing. I am a doer, I will always keep doing. But if you do well, so
Absolutely.
don't. I was telling people saying that there's a book called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's an amazingly fun book. And
Yeah.
Hitchhiker's Guide opens with a guy who's got some alien standing in front of him with a spaceship saying, "I'm sorry, we are here to destroy the Earth." He's like, "Why?" And he says, "Because we're building an intergalactic road and the Earth is in the way, so we're building a road." Now, he suddenly panics and he then hitchhikes across the universe just with a towel. It's a very funny book. But what Douglas Adams was trying to say, maybe at a larger level, was that he was trying to tell people that life will throw strange experiences at you, don't panic. So my thing is, don't do things right now in a panic. Pause,
Yeah.
think out a way and do it. We as commune, we were going to go to 5 cities to do podcasting workshops. I was getting so excited to travel. And suddenly I realized that, no, we can't travel. We took a pause, we put it up, and then we said, let's go online. And we are seeing great traction online. So we did that.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we created a play online. I don't know, Shan, if you haven't seen it, please see it. We
What's
got,
it called?
so Sheena Khalid again came and said, what do actors do? What do theater people do? And we said, there's a lot that they can do. We need to come up with an idea. So we wrote a script about people being locked down and a girl who's trying to find dates on an app. And every time she dates someone really funny. So she dates a guy who's obsessed with himself. She dates a guy who wants to be an actor. She dates a guy who is a voiceover artist. She dates a guy who just lost lots of weight. So it was like very funny stories. And on the other side, there is a guy who's trying a dating app for the first time, and he dates a girl who's obsessed with things. But it's just so funny.
How do
We've
we
done it.
watch
We've
this?
now. So it's on Insider. We've done 3 shows. Now we've actually got a branded show that's happening next week. So we're not going live this week with the public show, but after next week we will. It's incredible.
Wow. You're doing a lot during this lockdown, I must say.
Tons.
Also, with Spoken Fest and Commune, you do a lot of offline events. Now, social distancing is going to be a thing, and which is here to stay. So, what's your take on events like that? How will we, because Spoken Fest had a lot of people over the 2 days in
Yeah.
such a large space.
So you're right. I think Facebook's head has announced that the next big Facebook event is going to be June 2021. I think there's a sign in that. Anybody who thinks that they will be out there doing events in the next 3 months, pipe dream, won't happen.
Yeah.
Right? If they find a vaccine, things will improve. If they don't, till they don't find it, there will be very limited social engagements. You will do social engagements because you need to earn your money. You will do it, you want to meet, etc. And therefore,
Yeah.